Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Expire Show brought to you by Science Centre Singapore, the Singapore Institute of Technology and Neo Aeronautics. Tonight we're going to discuss a very interesting topic called disruption. And in the market, we all know that advanced technology, business model has changed to disrupt the market. But really, how does disruption work? And what's the framework or what's the strategy and how do you apply? When is the industry ripe for disruption? And tonight we're going to explore that together with Sebastian from Haulio, which has a very interesting industry that's very traditional and how they disrupt that industry and in a very short time have major market share. Let's go and meet Sebastian. Hi.
Hello.
Hi Sebastian, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, right. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
It's fun to be here.
And so tonight the topic is about disruption.
Okay.
Of course, it ties in with the opportunities that you find and then disrupt the market, right? So I think there are many ways of disrupting the market, but we would
Definitely.
like to explore with you how to do it and how do you eventually, how you find the opportunities and eventually disrupt the market. Okay, so maybe you want to introduce your company first.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Prof. Neil. Okay, hi everybody. I'm Sebastian. I'm the Chief Product Officer.
Yeah.
So I'm not the CEO. I'm the co-founder, but I manage more on the product and engineering side. So basically what Haulio is we're a platform for container trucking, right? And our goal is pretty simple, right? We are tech-enabled first-mile logistics. So logistics, typically when you talk about logistics, people think about Ninja Van, people think about Lala Move. People don't really think about the containers that is at a port. So what we do is the first mile, which is the movement of containers from maybe a factory to the port or from the port to the warehouse so that you get your imported Meiji cookies or whatsoever, right? So this is the first mile, and our focus is very much connecting SEA, the whole majority of all the ports in SEA to the rest of the world, right? So that's what we are focusing on. And I'm one of the co-founders, so I'm the CPO as I mentioned. My co-founder Alvin is actually the CEO, and his background is actually from the industry, right? His family business is in warehousing, right? And he started his own container trucking business the old way. For myself, I came from the software world. I was in a software house. I was a consultant over there, and I got in touch with a lot of logistics related businesses. In fact, I think the first one that got me really excited was freight forwarding, right? When I got to know how complicated freight forwarding was, I was like, wow, this is the first time I know of such a world out there. Then bit by bit, I started to understand more about container logistics, container haulage. I remember the feeling like it was just yesterday. So the first time I entered a container haulier's office, it felt like the closet, you're going through a Narnia, but instead of going into the icy world of Narnia, you go through a time warp. So outside you are in 2016, and then the moment you enter the door, you're back to 1990s. Then you go out of that, you get the picture of 2016 again. You are taking Grab, you're taking that back then there was Uber, and then you go inside into an office and you notice like how everything is working. It's on walkie-talkies. It's on it's very a manual process of assigning jobs to the drivers, right? So that blew my mind as a tech person. So from there, I started to dive even deeper. And I would say, so you mentioned one of the questions, right? What was how do I identify disruption, right? This is my only time I did this, right? So what really spurred me to look into container haulage? What really spurred me to say that I think there is something really, really exciting in there is, one, I spoke to the customers of container hauliers, right? And I painted them a picture of Uber, I painted them a picture of Grab. Like, what if you could move containers on demand, right? What if you could get drivers to come into your place on demand, right? And they all love the idea. They all love the idea. But they're all very excited, actually, right? And when I spoke to people in the industry, because back then I don't know what is the constraints, what is the infrastructural constraint or the business constraint of doing so. When I spoke to the suppliers, the container hauliers, they are all telling me, "Atia, buay sai la." Sorry, pardon the Hokkien. So it means a boy, this will not work. And then they will tell me the reasons. The reasons would be the liability issues, right? The containers, who's going to be liable if anything happened to it? If it's every individual driver can just take the container, what happens to the goods inside? How can it be? How can it work? It won't work, man, right? So to me, at that point in time, it was perplexing. Like, how could you have a customer asking for things, but people who are serving these customers saying that, nope, we will not do this. So that was actually the trigger point to tell me that told me that, okay, I really, really have to do this. I think there's something really inside here to uncover, right? So that was when I gave myself 1 year. So that was 2016. I left my previous job. I gave myself 1 year, 2017, to figure this out. So I started to knock walls, started to call people, started to figure things out on my own. And that's when it's very serendipitous that I met actually Alvin. It's actually through a good friend of mine. I was telling a good friend of mine, actually Caleb from PS Love, maybe you would know. Yeah. So I was telling a good friend of mine, I was telling him like, I'm trying to do this, it's really, really exciting. And then he was telling me that you got to meet Alvin. So I met Alvin, and Alvin happened to be 5 years in the business, getting really frustrated because it's really difficult to grow this business. And he knows he's fully aware of the constraints that I didn't know, right? But he understands the future. He understands what I mean by, can we make this on demand, right? So he's coming from a place where he understands what's going on, and I'm coming from a place where, okay, this is a picture, and I think that I can make this happen. So that's how we both came together into the picture. So from there, we have grown over the years, 4 years plus. We started working together in 2017. So I will count that as the starting year. We are now Singapore's largest digital container haulage platform. We've got more than 98% of the haulier companies with an account with us. So we've got outreach of more than almost a full market. We've transacted more than 1 million TUs on our platform. In fact, every week now we transact 40,000 TUs on our platform. A TU is pardon the industry term, a TU is 20-foot equivalent. So containers are like 20 foot, 40 foot generally. So a TU is a 20-foot equivalent unit. If it's a 40-foot container, it's 2 TUs. Okay. So today we are also Thailand's fastest growing haulage platform. We serve Lam Chabang and Lak Krabang. I'm not sure whether you guys are aware, but basically those are port destinations. So we serve very much the seaports. Yeah, so this is where first mile comes in, right? It's very port driven. And we're also incubated and backed by one of the world's leading port operators. So we are very lucky. So I met Alvin, and we also got PSA to support our first starting point. So 2017 was the first grant that they gave us to actually fly with this. Yeah. So our vision, we want to make sure that every single container in Southeast Asia to be on our platform. So we have the digital footprint of every single container in Southeast Asia. In ASEAN, ASEAN, right? So today, our investors network and together with our customer network, actually we are pretty much poised to tackle the ASEAN market. So one of which, let's say, I think, so apart from PSA, one of it is also, I think, worth a shout out. It's also YCH, who is actually helping us to explore into Vietnam markets, right, at this juncture. CMA CGM, we had a very, very big announcement, I can't really recall, 6 months ago, where we started to apply the Lam Chabang and Lak Krabang routes together with CMA CGM. Okay. Yeah, so they are customers in Singapore and they brought us overseas, right? So yeah, so I'm going to fly through this because I don't think this is, but basically what we're going for is by 2025, the whole of ASEAN region, this is what we are gunning for. Basically you can see that actually there's a lot of shorelines. There's a lot of shorelines. Actually, a lot of things that we can do, and there's a lot of interland haulage that can happen as well, because the borders are all inland as well, right? So there's actually quite a lot of cross-border haulage that can actually be happening as well. So it's a very exciting market, actually, ASEAN. Okay, so we provide. Okay, this is just some of the terms I won't go through. So we provide a lot of haulage stuff. I'm going to skip this. But what we do here is primarily two things. Okay, apart from helping our customers to have visibility. So what really makes Haulio exciting to a lot of customers is visibility, is trackability, and if you're aware in the industry, is that there's a lot of push towards what they call a control tower vision. They want to be able to know where all their containers are going. They want to all know their freights are going. So today, you buy something from Lazada, for example, they will tell you exactly what's going on. Ninja Van will have a portal. Right. Ninja Van will tell you on Telegram where it is. It's exactly the same thing, but for containers and for really large item logistics, right? So apart from doing that, we focus a lot on building up the trucking ecosystem. What it means is because we are a platform and we are nothing without our hauliers. We focus a lot on building up our hauliers. Okay, so what do? We help them with software tech that helps them to be able to plan better, execute better, right? And at the same time, we help them with our job pool that helps to insert jobs into their day-to-day such that they can increase their revenue or reduce cost, right? Amongst other things, we also bring in the value-added services like diesel packages and all that to help them to bring down the cost. So our focus is very much into making sure that this trucking ecosystem is on our software so that we can provide our customers the kind of visibility that they want, right? At the same time, we are helping our hauliers to increase revenue and reduce their cost. Yeah, so this is what effectively what we do. So this is a picture I wanted to show here because I wanted to show some of the pain points that is actually happening in the port community, because it's a very hidden side of the world that nobody really knows. Apart from recently, there's a lot of port congestion you guys hear about. Generally speaking, the port community, there is actually a lot of paperwork and a lot of congestions that you have to navigate across, right? You got like physical documentation that needs to happen. To give you an example, this is not happening in Singapore. Singapore is pretty digitalized. In other countries, drivers have to collect a single piece of paper. It's like a ticket, so that when you enter the port, then this piece of ticket would prove that you're coming to the port, right? And then you will also print out another piece of ticket over there to tell you where to go inside this particular port to pick up this container, right? So in Singapore, everything is digitalized. You can go online, click, 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 click. Then you make your entry booking, right? And then you enter the port. Our app today is connected to the port, and then the message of where to go in the port is coming through to the driver through the app, right? But this is Singapore. The rest of the market is still pretty much physical, and congestions at various container depots and warehouse is very, very common, right? So if you guys had a chance, ever had a chance, if you guys are interested in this industry, drive through Pioneer, go down towards Tuas South. You would see like big yards, a lot of containers, and you see big lines of trucks, right? These are the congestion, right? So think of it this way: haulage is moving containers, taxi is moving passengers. But in the taxi world, in the haulage world, it's like every single time you go to a single node, you are going through the ECP jam. Equivalent, like every single trip you kind of have a bit of a congestion, it's out of your control, all this kind of stuff. It happens, right? So what do we do? What we do is we try to, I'm going to skip this step. What do we do about it is we try to help our hauliers to maximize their schedule. In all logistics industry, actually, if you need to pick up something from A, you drop off at B, and pick up something from C to drop off at D, actually it's very simple. All you need to focus on is making sure that B and C is as tight as possible. So because this is the part where it's wasted, right? So what we do here is that we optimize, we are using what we call a gravity optimization, right? Because they're using my software, I know where their trucks are usually going. I know where their customers' hotspots are. I don't know who the customer is. I don't have to know. I just need to know that 7% of their trips will end up in this particular location. If I've got any customer that brings them to this location, I'm effectively bringing B and C together as much as possible, right? So this is actually what we do. And at the same time, we look at the kind of behavior that they have on our platform, like what kind of jobs do they actually prefer? Is it export-oriented or is it import-oriented? Or is it particular kind of requirements and they will be interested about it? So that's what we actually do. This industry, best case scenario, like what I mentioned at the start, is to do on demand. But on demand is still refrained. There's still some, infrastructural constraints that Haulio alone would not be able to break down. I mean, we are working with quite a few hauliers to see what else we can do to make this even better. But unfortunately, this is all more or less what the best we can do. But effectively, what we can also, because we're doing that, we are also actually helping hauliers to cut trucking distance. When you cut trucking distance, what you're effectively doing is to reduce carbon emissions, right? So I mentioned we do like 40,000 containers. We are not able to optimize everything yet. I mean, I'll be honest here, I can't optimize everything, right? So the optimization to this extent as of now today, it's still quite limited, but it's something that is improving along the way as well. So the amount of containers optimized, I mean, generally speaking, we have about like 284 trucks, 284 passenger vehicles worth of carbon that we have reduced over the period. I think there's still a lot of work that can be done to make this better. So I mean, there's always a phase by phase in terms of what the industry can accept moving forward. Okay. So these are some of our partners. I won't go through this. I won't go through this. Thank you very much. I don't want to take too much time on this.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we first start with your logo or your branding, right? Haulio. That's okay. But why
IO?
Why IO?
It's haulage in overdrive.
In overdrive. Oh, okay. That sounds like you're going to kick somebody's ass.
You know, when you're driving, you like downshift and you go faster, you accelerate faster.
Okay, maybe we can start with your personal experience first, because it's very unique that you normally people comes together, set up company, they know the founders very well, right?
I know.
And yours is a unique case. You quit your job and do something, and then luckily, serendipitously, or whatever, you could find a founder. So what gave you so much drive or overdrive that you really believe that you can disrupt this industry?
I would say it's a bit of experience. It has come with a bit of experience and a lot of key-selness, a lot of craziness. I think the first one is experience. I think Prof Neo, I've been in your class before. In uni, in JC, I've always tried to start things along the way.
Okay.
I got to learn about myself, like what do I like. For example, I hate being an agent. I realized I hate being an agent because I cannot control the end result. I hate that part. So that's one thing I learned, and along the way I also realized that I like tech the more. So I get more excited about tech stuff. I get more excited about doing things new, doing something in a new way. Right. So that's something I realized about it. Then I also realized that I like B2B software.
I see.
Yeah, because they are incredibly impactful if you can do it properly, right? So I like that challenge. It's not that B2C is not impactful, but I mean, it's just personally, I feel like B2B, you spend 8 hours in your day at work at least, right? If I can help you make your day better at work, that's actually something very meaningful. So I like B2B. And I also realized that certain things that I cannot do myself. So along the way, I tried starting a marketing company with a friend, and I realized that at a point of time, I'm not the best person to run this business. I still believe that it could work, but I don't know enough people to make this happen. So it's not about the idea, it's about who you are, the executor. Can I make this happen? I can't make that happen. So I closed it after 3 months. So then I met about freight forwarding. Actually, I was very excited about freight forwarding as well. I spent about 3-4 months to research into it. And I thought that, okay, again, it's the same scenario. I don't think I'm the right person to do it because I don't know enough people. I don't know enough what's going on in Indonesia, for example. How do you get something through the customs? And I don't know what goes on in that place, right? And freight forwarding, you can't just do Indonesia. Even if you realize Indonesia, you just can't do one thing, right? So I realized again, it's a case of I'm not the right person, or rather, it's not the right time for me, maybe, right? Then haulage was something that I felt like I could have a grasp of my customers. I have a grasp of what's going on in the haulier side, right? And I can start off small, I can start off in Singapore. And I love the fact that it is containers because it is a very systematic way of thinking. Just 20 foot, 40 foot, nothing too fancy about it, right? So the scope is manageable, in my opinion. And coming from a software point of view, I believe I can make that happen. I believe that can be done, right? So that's the logical side. The illogical side is, I've always wanted to do something like that. I've always wanted to. It's something that excites me. I think you can see it from my face. It excites me.
I see.
And I also realized that I'm not actually very young anymore at that point in time, right? That was 2016. 2016, I was already 27. So I was telling myself maybe I should just give myself 1 year. And if I can't make that happen, it's just 1 year, right? I can jia cao for 1 year. So I'm actually very lucky. So I actually tell a lot of my friends that it's not because, starting up is one part, but you need to be lucky to be able to start up. Like I don't have parents I don't have liabilities on my hand. I got nothing. I can live with $1,000 a month. It's fine, right? That's how I actually managed to do it. So a lot of like 天时地利人和 that can make it happen. Then I give myself 1 year. Even if I can't, then maybe I need to go back to earth, get grounded. Maybe I'll try again at 40 years old. So that's what I told myself. Literally, that's what I told myself. Like, if this doesn't work, maybe I'll try again at 40 years old.
So you look like you have a very systematic plan. Now, okay, so you came out to spend 1 year, and I think I remember I saw you in campus a couple of times. Yeah, I was like, okay, one person, what are you doing? And so, but of course I do know that you're working on something. Now, so you find Alvin and it comes together. One have the domain knowledge and you have the passion and it comes together. I think that's good, right? You got a good founding team, you know. So one of the things about disruption is in this kind of opportunity is that things that have been industry have never been changed for a long time, right? The process has not been changed for a long time. That is time for disruption, right?
Correct.
So if, as technology, so-called technology moves so fast, right? So if it's, how would you say our industry have not been changed for a long time? Is it 5 years? Then it's time right for us to go and think about disruption? Is it 10 years?
Actually, again, this is just from my own experience.
Yeah, sure.
I think every industry has their own time frame. I don't think there is a standard answer to say 5 years or 10 years. But you always begin from your customer's perspective. So let's say, for example, Amazon loves to say this, it's about being customer focused, right? If your customers are always expecting something better, right? I think disruption is made possible if the tech makes it scalable to provide what your customers want. Yeah, basically, if the tech is able to scalably provide what your customers want, period. Not just tech and the industry. So let's say, for example, talk about taxi industry, 15 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
Who who in the world, I mean, okay, there is a bit of a difference between knowing what is possible and being able to appreciate what is possible. Okay. So if you last asked me 15 years ago, right, like taxi industry, nobody likes to stand in the sun to flag a cab. Literally as that. If you tell any customer, any passenger, would you love it if there's a service that can pick you up directly from downstairs of your house anytime you want it like that, right? There'll be two groups of people for sure. One group will say, no, Bokoling, it will never happen, this will never ever happen, right? Like where will the taxi be doing, right? So there are people who don't believe in such things, but there will be people who will be able to see what's possible and be able to appreciate it. And then they will tell you that, oh my God, I think this would be lovely, right? I would love it, right? So I think disruption happens if tech makes it possible. The infrastructure there is possible. Taxis are able to get to this current state is because smartphones have proliferated. It provided an infrastructure for tech to be able to reach out to many people at one time. So the infrastructure is there. The third one is your customers want, but your current kind of suppliers are not doing anything about it, or rather they are not aware about it. Yeah, I think this is the three things that come together.
So really looking at customer needs. We call it creating value for customers, whether it's shortening the time or whatever, increasing the revenue. Now, let's look at the market. Okay, you start in Singapore, and you manage to get more than 90%, right? In how many years?
About 1 year plus.
So it's interesting, right? Because you come out with a service as a platform, right? And what's so unique that you can so quickly, take over the market share? That means there are a couple of companies, or majority of the companies disappear.
Okay. So I need to provide clarity for that statement. I need to provide clarity for that statement. Many of us has Facebook, but you're not very active on it. Some of us are not very active on it.
I see.
This is literally the case. We got more than 95% of the hauliers having an account with us. But I would say, wait, let me count. A third of it is active. A third of it is active on the platform, right? And activity today. So maybe I'll chop this statement into three parts. Okay. So a platform, a digital platform that connects hauliers together is something that wasn't existent. Wasn't existent, right? When we first came up, that was actually when we first came up and we brought in together with PSA to source for hauliers. It was something that I think really rocked the market in a sense, where there was no such platform around, right? So we managed to get in a lot of hauliers to come on board, right? Then the next phase that actually happened was that we initially started out with a haulier to haulier Facebook kind of a system for hauliers to be able to share jobs with one another, right? But it didn't really pan out very well, because they're not the customers. They're not the customers who actually want this kind of. So the value prop was not angled properly. Like I was mentioning, right? The value prop is for the customers, they want something like Grab, right? It's not angled very well. Then we started, because we also had a lot of hauliers on our platform, we started having customers, like freight forwarders were asking us, hey, can you help me? And my haulier can't do it today. I know you got like 50 plus hauliers back then. Can you help me with it? So that's how actually we started to open up towards the customers, right? Because I think one of the challenge that Haulio really had was being able to navigate the business norms, and at the same time, because at the same time we kind of behave like intermediary of jobs. So that actually rattled quite a bit of feathers, right? Like how when Grab happened, then you have all the taxi companies go, what the hell, right? So this was actually our case. So currently right now, what we are focused on is actually getting the hauliers to be really, so we got 30, so I got like 30% of hauliers who are very active on my platform on a monthly basis, and we are focused on getting them to be taking our jobs, using our software, and then providing our customers unparalleled experience, right? So we are not at this juncture where we are. I wouldn't say, okay, in terms of jobs, we are not at the full. We are not at 95% market share. Okay, but what we are actually doing, is actually getting a lot of these smaller hauliers, the long tail of hauliers, to work together as one. Things that we do for them is like we go for contract jobs together. We source for contract jobs together. We find them diesel, like 3 truck, 4 truck. My community has so many more trucks. Every day I have 700 trucks online, right?
So you can bulk them out for economy of scale.
Yes, I bulk them out together, right? So this ecosystem becomes something that just keeps growing bit by bit along the way. Yeah.
In effect, this is really a platform strategy, right? Where you have a platform and you link people together, and if they use the same services or buy the same goods, then they can come together to do bulk buying. So economy of skills and everything's keeping.
Correct.
Which is also good because once they do this, they are locked into the system, right? It's very difficult for them to switch to another one because they lost all the benefits, right? So what you call the switching cost. All right. So how, when you go to PSA, and I think PSA runs the incubator, right? Actually, what you learn, why do you need to join? And you have already something there. What does an incubator provide you?
Well, PSA provides us more than just that. PSA sometimes internally between myself, like it's like our parents are that to some level. Okay, so the PSA incubator is a very interesting setup. It's a bit like corporate VC. It's a bit like corporate VC, but at the same time, PSA as an entity itself, actually, they have been exploring a lot of different ways to help this market be better. Right? They are just running a port business, but like I mentioned just now, the port community, you're talking about different nodes. If a congestion happens at the depot, or hauliers are unable to come on time, the port suffers. Right? Exactly the same thing that is happening in US now. Right? Happening the same thing in Britain also. Right? Truck drivers are just not enough truck drivers, right? Right. So what they've been thinking about a lot about tons about like this kind of like, I mean, they also had their own thought about Grab trucking long time ago, right? So when we came in together with when we got together with PSA, they provided us a lot of operational insight on what could actually be done together with us. So at the same time, they were also looking at, so not just financing, but also because they are, actually PSA, they have a lot of operations overseas as well. They have a lot of operations overseas. So they're actually one of our biggest, they help us a lot overseas, really a lot overseas, right? In Singapore, it's very much about trying to help the industry to be improving in terms of like changing the way certain processes are done so that the port could actually run a lot more effectively. That's their focus here in Singapore.
So I think what you are saying is that the PSA, obviously PSA is probably one of the most computerized, IT-enabled organization, port operations.
Port operations.
Always looking for things to improve, especially in digitization, right? Correct. So you fit into that role, and one of when you are having a new venture, of course, the simplest way is to find a mothership that can give you that detailed knowledge of operations of the industry, and also have the network for you to scale, right? Which is very important. Now, let's talk about scaling to you scale from Singapore, right? And then you scale to Thailand. All right. Now, so obviously manpower issues. And overseas knowledge, all this comes into the picture, right? So one of the important things is scaling. So in Singapore, you will find that, okay, the industry is like maybe still paper and pen based, and then you disrupt it, right? Then obviously the surrounding countries, there are still pockets that are, or maybe more pockets that are like that, right? Why you choose Thailand?
Why we choose Thailand? Okay. Interesting point. Actually, when we first started in Singapore at 2017, by 2018, we were already going around Southeast Asia countries looking for our next place.
Yeah.
Because truth to be told, we also know that Singapore market is very small. And Singapore is a test bed for us to see what could work, what would stick, right? What would stick, what would work, and then we would do it all over again overseas. That's the concept. So back in 2018, we were already going around to Batam, Jakarta, Malaysia, in Thailand as well. At some point, we also touched into Philippines, so why did we choose Thailand? So actually, we chose Thailand because of the reliability of who we are starting with, in a sense where. Like how much do we know about the person? How much do we know about? So actually, when we started in Thailand, actually, our first touch point, our first landing pad, let's put it that way, is actually with PSA.
I see.
It's actually with PSA.
So they have that.
They have
at
ports
least the
in
global
Thailand.
footprints.
They have ports that they operate in Thailand that helped us to understand what is actually going on. At least a bit of it. They don't run the entirety. They don't run the entirety of because it's still not. I mean, they are the foreign. I mean, it's just, that's not how things work in other countries, right? So at least we know one thing very well, and then from there we started to expand into different vendors. We started to understand how different vendors work. Personally, I followed a Thai driver the whole day, just to understand what goes on as a Thai driver. Very very exciting actually, to see what is actually being done. Then from there we started to understand how to build certain things for that particular type of operations, right? While in Singapore we are still actually growing. So Thailand was the first landing pad for us to get in there, and from there, because we already kind of know, we started to focus on the customer base in Singapore to start seeing how could we work with our current customers in Singapore to start to move overseas, which is the news 6 to 8 months ago, together with CMA-CGM. That was actually the big breakthrough for us to move into really operationalize in Thailand. So
Okay.
that's how we do.
Now let's go to a couple of questions that appear.
Yeah.
So are there differences with growing stuff from 0 to 10, then to 30, and your current number of 50?
A lot of differences. 0 to 10 feels like a group project. 0 to 10 feels like a group project where everybody can sit around the table.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It's actually quite fun. It's actually very fun. It's
So
very tiring.
you're more informal.
It's very informal. Actually, it's still very informal now. It's still
Okay.
very informal now. But it's very fun. It's very tiring, and it's also very fun at the same time. I could be picking up calls from Haulio at the same time while trying to do my screens at the same time, because everybody's just doing everything, right? This is the 0 to 10 phase. Then you would go for nasi lemak at night. That's actually those days. Then to 30, 10 to 30 is actually happened pretty fast. Actually, for Haulio's journey, we happened really fast. I think along the way we also learned a lot of mistakes, made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
We started to scale, we started to expand, but we didn't. I mean, it was a bit of a overscaling and over-expanding at one point in time. So managing at 30 started to feel like, okay, there's you started to let go quite a fair bit of stuff to other people. You also start to feel a sense of loss of control, right? Because I've never been in a large company before, right?
Okay.
I think this is one. I never knew how a large company worked. I never knew how a proper structure would work. So it was a lot of experimenting about what kind of processes do we set in place for certain things. What kind of processes do we then you started to have manpower issues, like complaints and issues, then unhappiness and here and there. Then you start to realize that, oh, actually my scope is more than just doing this. I need to start being HR, I need to start doing this.
You should
Yeah.
Have leadership, right?
Yeah. Then you start your brain starts to be reconfigured. Your brain wiring starts to reconfigure, right? Then at 50, it's we are very lucky. Actually, now we're at 50, right? We started to have investors who take very kindly to us, and they're actually really helping us a lot to help us to be better leaders, to know how to run the proper company. Yeah. So actually now a lot more processes are in place, a lot of teams are in place. The way we start to manage in terms of like roles and responsibilities starts to emerge. Okay. It's a bit late stage, I would say. That usually people would have done that by the time they're 20. But for us, it's around the 30 to 50 range, and we start to do this. Yeah, to be a lot more refined in the way we run things. Yeah.
So what you talk about investors, right? So one of the important things about doing new ventures is to, of course, attract investment, and government also have grants, right? So and cash flow is ultimately the more important thing. So maybe you can talk slightly a little bit about how do you actually manage to raise fund, or you use your own money to bootstrap, or how to get grants and to make the operations smooth, right? Of course, they're always up and down. And especially, let's say, investor comes in, how do you value yourself? I don't need numbers, but maybe the techniques or the concept of saying that you come in, I need this X amount, but this company worth Y. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, a caveat. I'm not the one running the fundraising, but I'll try to answer my best as I can. So the starting, when we first started, it was pure bootstrap. I had some savings, so I basically put in all my savings into the picture, and then we started to draw $1,000 every month from there. That's how I actually started. Yeah. Then PSA came in as a pre-seed round, the incubator period. Right? Then we started to be able to be slightly better off a little bit. We're still paying ourselves very little, but we started to be able to hire people. So I started to move away from freelancing team to actual team in Singapore from there on. Then in terms of fundraising for Haulio, the journey hasn't been the typical story that I think is usually out there. I think primarily the biggest reason is because nobody really understood haulage. Nobody really understood sea freight, port businesses, the pain points and all that, right? Nobody really understood it. And it's really hard to explain it to someone who's not from the industry. You need to the first question that we usually get, just to share with you guys, is very funny. So who actually owns the containers?
Who actually owns the container? Okay.
Whom do you think it owns the containers?
It's actually in the independent party, right?
You're quite right. You're actually like 60% correct already. It's actually not the customers. A lot of people think that containers are owned by the customers.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm IKEA, I'm actually owning your containers. No, that's not how it works. Sorry, caveat, IKEA is considering buying their own containers now because of the global shortage, but
so you rent the container.
You usually rent the containers, correct. You rent the containers, and the people you rent from are usually the shipping lines. And shipping lines, sometimes they also use third party. So basically, you don't own the containers, right? So actually, those are things you need to explain, like how containers actually run, like on a day-to-day basis. After you unload a container, you still need to return the container to somewhere.
Yes.
So by the time you're trying to explain that, it's already an hour and a half. And people get tired, and if people don't really understand what's going on, it's really difficult. So our early days in fundraising, our early few rounds in fundraising, actually, the people who are really excited about Haulio, which also gave Alvin and myself a lot of faith in what we're doing, because the people who are really excited about what we're doing are usually the corporates. They know what is going on and what is going wrong. And they get really excited talking to us, because the moment we tell them that we're trying to do this, they go, I get you now. They understand it. So actually, if you look at our fundraising, it's all public news. If you just Google like news fundraising, Haulio fundraise, you'll realize that actually a lot of them corporates, starting from PSA. It's our investor from day one all the way until now. They're still, current round, they're still investing as well. The corporates, and And people who are excited, sometimes they're shipping lines as well. The shipping lines who are really excited about us as well. Then you got Comfort Delgro. You got so those are people who could understand the transportation of big heavy stuff in the ports.
Okay.
Yeah. It's only recently, and very thankfully because of COVID, you have port issues. You have the Evergreen. I mean, unfortunate for a lot of people, but fortunately for us, the Evergreen Canal issue at Suez Canal really brought a lot of attention.
Okay.
And now, again, fortunately for us, but unfortunately for a lot of people, it's the
crisis generate opportunity. Yeah. Okay.
You have then people start to understand. Okay, actually, this industry has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
People start to understand now. So actually now it's getting a lot easier, and it's also because we have more traction now that people are also understanding better. But at least now it's common knowledge. Containers, Evergreen. It's really easy to talk to them now. Then you understand truck drivers are actually a problem, a really big problem in Britain, right, in the UK. Right, people start to understand what is actually going on. Then you have ports in US trying to become 24 hours to solve the congestion issues, but actually it's not exactly the solution because the problem is not really at the ports and that kind of stuff, right? So it's actually good for us. I mean, in a very unfortunate way, good for us. Yeah.
I think this is
unfortunate for other people. I'm sorry.
Entrepreneurs always finds opportunities, right? So it's like pandemic. There are a lot more opportunities. But you focus on the existing business, you probably won't be able to do it well. But if you look at from a different angle, then there are a lot more opportunities. Okay, let's ask. Let's see a question from your goal is a whole ASEAN by 2025, right? And I think you've been to Thailand. And where will you be going? And what are the challenges? Because different languages, different rules and regulations, are they very standardized?
We don't have an answer. We don't exactly have the answer, but it is starting to be clearer to us that it is largely similar.
Okay.
But it's still not something that I think we can put on the pen and paper and say that it is definitely similar. Just judging from Singapore and Thailand alone, operations, I would say that it's 30-40% different.
Okay.
30-40% different. So there is some localization in terms of operational aspect that you need to do. But I would believe that by the time we do our second market outside of Thailand, meaning that Singapore, Thailand, and one more market, we would have already 80-90% of whatever variations there could possibly be already. Yeah. So the ASEAN market is interesting because we don't so the good part about the ASEAN market is that actually we are all around the same in terms of like economic development, minus Singapore. So we are more or less the same. So the kind of infrastructure that is there is quite similar. It's quite similar. So we're not expecting like we're suddenly entering a really advanced economy and then entering a really backward economy, and the challenges are different. ASEAN market is quite ubiquitous in that respect. So we believe that by the time we do our second one, we should. In Thailand, I believe we already hit about 70% of all the variations already. We are still discovering variations today. I'll be clear. But 70-80%, I think by the time we're done in Thailand, by the time we are more established in Thailand, we have covered the variations. One more market would just close the gap. Yeah. So what's the process? The process is very much finding good people, like good partnerships to get into, like really solid people to work together with. Because in the haulage industry, it's really hard for you to like Google. You can't Google and find out what's going on. You need people who are really good at what they're doing to be working with you in the country, right? So that they will be able to tell you what's actually going on in there. They'll be able to bring light to a really shadowed industry. Shadow as in you can't Google, you can't really read, you can't do anything to find out. You have to be inside to find out. Yeah.
Okay, one question on, I think this is very interesting, right? This is that you are dealing much more with ports, right? Because Singapore ports, and they're in other places, the container depot will be by rail, You know,
I
it's a
love this
land
question.
port.
Who came up with this?
Yeah, it's a land port. So is
Yeah.
there any difference here where there's opportunity?
It's exactly the same to us. It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
We still call them ports, right?
Yeah, it's a land port.
Ta-da! The answer is clear. So I never said seaport, I always said ports, right? So it's just that Singapore, it started as
But
seaports.
it's the same as also airport, right?
Oh no, because they don't really use containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really use, I mean, the airlines have their own containers. I mean,
Yeah.
planes have containers,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. But for now, the specification of containers that we're looking at is
they don't put a TU
the
inside.
TU kind of,
basically,
yeah. Correct.
It's just what they
Because the
call-
truck is different. So if you notice, what we're trying to go for is the supply base, the haulier base. I mean, the trailer and the tow head does not make sense for the airport, right? For rail ports, some of them they use containers. There's no difference to us, right? In fact, it's something that we are looking at.
So going forward, right? Going forward, you're planning to do ASEAN, right? And I think ASEAN is a very a region where culture are different, language are different. There's not much of a homogeneous thing. So why don't you choose a country where everything is much more homogeneous? It's easier to scale.
Okay, so it's a question of why don't we do it in say.
Why don't you just hit the bullet and then just go to the US and it's easier to scale?
Yeah, correct.
And they have problems now.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a strategic decision, business decision, because we are very bullish about ASEAN growth.
I see.
We are very bullish about ASEAN growth, and we believe it's actually in the numbers really. Like sea freight, intra-ASEAN sea freight is growing faster than anywhere else. Right,
okay.
and you have factories moving over to Southeast Asia. More factories means more raw materials, more finished goods, more containers that needs to be moved around, right? It's a boom time. It's boom time for ASEAN. Like, I mean, it's not now per se, but by the time I think that it will dovetail nicely. We believe it will dovetail nicely. We are very bullish about it. Yeah.
So one thing is this, right? Now that you're taking your time to scale, right? Singapore.
Not exactly taking our time.
I mean, in our internet time, you're taking your time. Okay, so the thing is that you're using a digital platform as a service, right? And I believe eventually you will probably want to use more AI to make it the more intelligent and more smart. But
correct.
actually, once a concept comes out and is proven, people in Indonesia can quickly start, right, and replicate. So what makes you so different? How are you going to compete against them if you are not there when they started?
Okay, competition is good. Competition means that you're doing the right thing. So when Haulio first started in 2016, 2017, a lot of people ask us who are competitors, and we have no answers to it. And it leaves a bad taste for people who don't know the industry, because it just shows that
don't believe it, right?
But now we actually do have legit ones. In fact, there are more and more in US. There are more and more really prominent ones in US and in China. There are also up and coming ones in Indonesia that we are looking very closely. But they are not our focus. They're really not our focus. At the end of the day, it's the customers. It's what you do for your customers that makes you different. And B2B is a very interesting world, because it's okay. B2C internet, you scale really fast because decisions are made by myself. I decide to take Uber today, and I don't want ever to take Uber anymore.
Right.
Okay. But I don't think I'll be able, back then in 2014, I wouldn't be able to tell my mom to use Grab app. I would never be able to do that. So B2B is exactly that scenario, right? It's very hard to change behavior. And once it's changed, it's very hard to be changed again.
Yeah.
So there are actually benefits to the industry, although it's slow. But once it's changed, the stickiness is very strong. So again, we are watching, but we are not really obsessed. We are watching just to know what is actually going on, like watching our competitors to know what's going on. But actually, we are more customer obsessed and customer and supply obsessed, because at the end of the day, we believe that it's a market who makes a decision on whether you use the competitor yourself, right? So if you focus on the competitor, you're focusing on the wrong thing, in our opinion. Yeah, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah.
So what's your grand plan to move 1 billion TEU in Southeast Asia?
Well, I don't have the numbers offhand, but you're pretty close. You're pretty close. In ASEAN, actually, you have a lot of opportunities beyond just seaports as well.
Okay.
And we're really excited about that because for some of our customers here, they're badgering us to get it up actually. Like hey, when are you going to do this in that particular country? I can't really tell. I can't really say, sorry. but there are actually a lot of opportunities that is related, like really adjacent to what we are doing. That is really exciting for us. So yeah, that part I'll keep it under wraps.
Okay, very good. We wish you well. Probably we're running short of time, so thank you very much for coming to our studio and share with us how you disrupt a traditional industry.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me. I would love to. Yeah, would love to have
thanks,
any further
Sebastian.
questions.
And for the people who are on the show, this Sebastian will be our last in studio speaker. We will have more guest speakers next year, and in the meantime, in November and December, we will be talking about innovations, how to come out with innovation. And December, we talk about entrepreneurship, some of the parts about identifying opportunities, doing the funding and grants. So keep in tune for the November and December series. Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Thanks, Prof.
Good.